A very good day. How are you, ladies and gentlemen? All right. How many here have been to Komodo Island? How many haven't? I can tell you anything I want. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't met me, my name is Hutch. I've been sailing with Princess now 11 years, at sea 34 years. I am going to present to you lectures as a traveler. I'm not here to sell you excursions. I'm not here to sell you on anything. I'm here to give you information. Now, one thing I cannot do, I cannot sit privately with anybody and block out their day. I've already had a couple people ask me, do you know tour agents ashore? I can't mention that. I don't have the insurance. I don't have anything for responsibility that way. But the main thing, and I always say this, and I'm very true, if I would interrupt any revenue on board this ship, I would be disembarked. Most likely deck 16 whilst we're at sea. So I have to be very cautious. So it's not that I don't want to assist in that way. I can't tell you about taxi companies, which one I recommend, which things. I don't have the insurance. God forbid something would happen. That company doesn't have insurance. They're going to turn around and come after me. So I have to be careful in that way. But we do have a great program on board with the shore excursions. Now, I can give you all about the information of the ports. I don't know the logistics of the breakdown of the shore excursions. We have a young lady on board, Eva. She's in charge of that. So without further ado, let me introduce you to the shore excursion manager, Eva.
Good morning. Wow, full house. Welcome aboard for whoever arrived in Auckland, Sydney or Brisbane. Good to have you all on board finally. My name is Eva. I'm the shore excursion manager on board. I'm from Poland. I've been with Princess Cruises for 18 years. Can you believe that? I know, right? There's no continent I haven't been to, and this is all thanks to Princess Cruises, so I'm a very, very lucky gal. I do work with a team down on Deck 5 at our shore excursion office, Deck 5 in the atrium. If you haven't found us yet, please come down, say hello. We can have your questions answered and so on. So I work with Nico from Italy, my assistant manager, and Jorge, our only tour staff from Argentina. He's lovely. If you haven't met him yet, also come down. He's lovely. I've worked with him before, with Jorge. You'll enjoy his storytelling. Folks, just to keep you updated, how you can book a shore excursion. If you haven't booked it before the cruise, please remember you can do it on board, even last minute. And I'll tell you how. So first of all, if you have pre-reserved, you do need to have your shore excursion tickets in your room, and it's until Dubai, folks, okay? The World Cruise, if you're here for the whole 106 days with us, it will be divided into 4 segments. So we go segment by segment. Please bear with us. I know you're very patient. This is how the cruise has been built. So we need to go segment by segment. So until Dubai, we can book anything on board. We have the booking forms, like here. You have them in your room. There are extras outside our desk. You can also go digital now. You don't need to actually fill out the form. If you have a phone, like I do here, this is a company phone before anybody asks, okay? You can log into our Princess at Sea application on board. You can check availability. You can have some information, more information on the booking form. I know those devices sometimes may not have all the information, especially the special notes are important to have. You can book yourself even from the comfort of your own stateroom, from the dining room, from the pool side, wherever you are on the ship, as long as you log into the Princess at Sea application. And very important, it is free of charge, so don't need to log into your paid internet. Please log out if you are online and paying. We will book you without paying, okay? So that's free of charge. If you do not have your own device, like a phone or a tablet or a computer or whatever you use, we have iPads outside our desk. Outside of our office hours, you can book yourself. It's very easy, just like online shopping. If you have shopped online before, it's exactly the same thing. You need to choose, you need to give us your details, put the things like shore excursions you book in the cart, log out by confirming everything, and we'll send the tickets to your stateroom within 24 hours. And it works the same for the booking forms. But please remember, if you do it at night, you'll probably get the tickets next morning. So it's a bit of an issue. If you want to try to book a tour on the day of the tour, you will need to come and see us, either in the Princess Theatre or wherever we meet on board for the shore excursions, or on the pier. Because on the day, the Princess at Sea and our iPads, the application will not work for on-the-day bookings, okay? So I hope it is clear. Regarding availability, we still have most of the shore excursions available. Please know that we got another departure for the tea plantation in Colombo at 11 a.m. So if you have been waitlisted, we would have cleared you. And if you want to go, please come and see us. So it's a very unique opportunity. Some of the finest teas are made on Sri Lanka. We also have a new tour in Dubai. If you have been to Dubai before, and you're like, oh my God, we're going to Dubai again 2 days. We have a tour to Abu Dhabi. Okay, anybody been to Abu Dhabi? There you go. Come with us. We'll give you all the details at our desk if need be. Also, a question about Halifax that has been added instead of Charlottetown later on. Towards the end of the World Cruise, we have been informed by our office that they have built a program now, so come see us for details. And you can also refer to princess.com for generic information of what shore excursions will be available in Halifax, okay, during our call. That's later after we have crossed the Atlantic. And also, we've been asked by our office, because most of you are on board for the World Cruise, just few passengers join us later on in Southampton or New York, even in some in Dubai. If you are interested in Galapagos overland or Machu Picchu overland, which is later on in South America, please come and tell us. The deadline is approaching. We can still try to book you, but we need you to be decided to go, and we'll take care of all the details and booking, okay? So welcome aboard once again. Enjoy the talk. I'm going to go now and give you back Hutch. Take care. Sorry.
Thank you, Ava. Now, one thing Ava didn't mention, on your tour tickets is the information where to meet. Also, once you come to the meeting area, you're going to get a sticker. That sticker will coordinate to which bus you're on. Therefore, if you're traveling with a group, please come together, because if you come at separate times, you're going to be on different buses. So if you want to travel together, come together. Now, this works the opposite way. If you don't want to travel with somebody, send them in a couple minutes early and just show up a little bit late. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I will be giving you a lot of information on all different things. One thing I can strongly recommend. If I were to take you on an encompassing tour, be it New York, London, Sydney, anywhere in the world, major city, would you walk around with diamond earrings, a Rolex watch, high-heeled shoes? Gentleman there said, yes, he scares me. Ladies and gentlemen, you're never going to see these people ever again in your life. You don't need to dress for impress. We have the formal nights on board. That's the time for regalia. Dress comfortable. I'll tell you when there's restrictions in any different ports, but I recommend trainers, sneakers, flat, comfortable shoes, and that way the blue princess bag, if you're going to utilize that, turn it inside out. There's nothing worse than advertising a group of tourists in a major city. You're always going to have in the cities people coming in to take advantage of the tourist. So I will tell you, ladies and gentlemen, be very careful in that way. Walk around, be careful in that way. It was very interesting. I was on a world cruise a couple of years ago, and we had 2 people pickpocketed in Oslo. They came up to me. They had their lanyards on their neck and the blue bags, and said, we don't know how they picked this out. Those lanyards look like the exact thing a hotel uses as a hotel key also. So they're going to zone in on that. Another big thing. You're in an air-conditioned environment. You're going to be walking more, eating heavily, maybe 1 or 2 martinis. Make sure you increase your water. Do not wait till you're ashore and thirsty. You're going to be dehydrated. A little bit extra water every day will help you from dehydration, especially coming into the heat and humidity we'll be coming into very soon. Now remember, at Singapore, you're only 60 miles from the equator, so that's also a very warm place. Komodo Island will be very warm. You want to have the aspect of hydration. Now, it sounds like a joke, but it's very serious. The first medical sign of dehydration is grumpiness. We don't want that transpiring. So please, plenty of water, and I can't stress enough also sunscreen, a hat, especially when you're going to be, how many here are doing the Komodo Island tour? You're going to be in areas. It's not Disney World. It's the true island. It's not going to have shade. You're going to have to walk. I'm going to tell you probably about 2.5 kilometers, 1.5 miles you'll have to cover. Now, you're going to have to stay in groups. And I'll be talking all the things about the Komodo dragons. What they like to do, they hunt in stealth. They don't like confrontation. So what happens is when there's a group, they will not go near normally. All right, you have the guides with you. They have their sticks and everything that way. I'll show you. But you can't be alone in that area. So you do need to stick with a group that way. So you're going to, once again, cover about 1.5 miles, 2.5 kilometers. Now, I can tell you a cute story. Last time there, we had a group of our security and officers by the pier, and they said, Hutch, do you know where the dragons are? And there was one right under a house right near the pier. So I got one of the local guides, and we took him up there, and we're standing there getting photos, and one of the officers does a little walk. And he got about 10 yards, And the Komodo dragon just went. They can sense when something's alone. So you do go in a group, and that's the safety in the groups that way. Now, one big thing also, remember, it can be a change of weather when you're in Komodo and many different places. Take some kind of rain gear with you, carry it in the backpack. Now, how many here use the backpack or fanny packs or the different bum bags? One thing I can say, what you can get a hold of, I recommend very strongly, is twist ties. You know the ones you take over the garbage? All right, you take that and you tie your zippers together, because you're going to have the two zippers where they meet. And that'll give you a great safety so someone can't walk by and just unzip it. If you can't find that, a safety pin. You pin that to the cloth, and that way here, someone just can't walk by and nonchalantly, or you can accidentally knock it and it opens up. So I do recommend that very strongly for you. Now, you do have in the morning the Channel 21, The Wake Show. Now, that I do recommend, wake up with The Wake Show. If anything's going to change with itinerary, different factors, it's going to be on The Wake Show. So you definitely want to really get up and wake with that. My talks will be repeated on Channel 27. I'll be hosting a desk also next to Shore Excursions. Normally at Sea Days, it's 4 to 5. If we sail in port before 6 o'clock, I will sit there between the dinner seatings from 7 to 8 o'clock. So that's right next to Shorex. Now, also, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be giving you plenty of information. Any golfers here? I'll be telling you about golf in port. I'll be telling you about areas for this, a little bit about shopping, where the main shopping roads are. I'll try to tell you all the time where the tourist information is located. I'll try to give you a lot for those who travel independent. Now, the reason I give a lot that way also, even people on tours, majority of tours are half day. So if I give you more information, you'll know what you can do in your free time, and I can tell you where to go to get more information also. Now, how many here are swimmers? You all right? I'll be telling you about swimming. Remember the buddy system. Now, at the area of Komodo Island, I'll go over this very in depth. You cannot swim by the beach area. Komodo dragons can swim. They can dive down 15 to 20 feet. So water is not safety. The Pink Beach is a safe beach area. That's a 20-minute boat ride away. So on Komodo, if you want to swim, you have to be on the Pink Beach tour. Now, how many snorkelers do I have? Komodo, they did have, my last 2 times there, they did have some snorkeling equipment at the beach, and there was some great tropical fish in the water. Where's my divers? If you were diving, remember, snorkeling and diving, you must utilize the buddy system. Always have someone with you. And if you dive, I strongly recommend strapping on a dive knife. You take the knife, you strap it to your calf or to your thigh. That way you swim out, and if a large shark were to come upon you, you take that knife out, stab your buddy, swim like heck, you'll get away every time. Remember, you never have to swim faster than the shark, just faster than the person next to you. So you're all safe. Okay, our port of call now, we're coming up into Komodo. We're scheduled to be there on the Thursday, June 14th, 6 o'clock, right now to 3:15. Now, the time can always change. When you come off the vessel, whether it be by tender or just walking off in port, there'll be a board there. This board will tell you what time to be back. Now, it can change. Reason, it could be piloting, it can be currents, it can be many different things that make us change our time in port. So the final time will always be at the gangway. Now, also, how many are like me, getting a little bit older and a little forgetful? Take your camera and take a photo of that board. Therefore, hours later, when you go, was it 4 o'clock or 4:30 back on board, you look at that photo, you know what time to be back. So I learned that from a gentleman on a world cruise, and what happens, every time I saw him, he was taking a photo of the board. And I said, oh, that's to remember where you were for your photos. He goes, no, I forget by the end of the day what time to be back. So I started doing the same thing. Now, your currency, they will accept small denominations of, they accept any money of Australian normally, but change might be Indonesian. So what you want to do is have small denominations of the rupiah. Right now, for the Australian dollar, it's 10,605. New Zealand, 9,710. U.S., 14,105. Canadian, you're looking at 11,000. Euro, 16,615. The pound, 19,015. As I mentioned, they'll take Australia. Normally, they also take U.S., so you'll have no problem. But once again, change. So you don't want to hand over a $100 bill for a 50 cents a dollar item and get all the change back in the worst exchange rate possible. Now, we're coming into Komodo Island. We're coming on to a national park. It was national park established in 1980. Now, what happens? Everyone on board must abide by the national park's rules and regulations. Whoop. Everyone going ashore must be on an organized tour. Now, if you're on a tour that you have prearranged, please let the front desk know. They will make arrangements with the immigration. We have immigration on board. You have to have a clearance from immigration. They will do that for you. No one under 5 years of age is allowed onto the island, so that rules out many of you, unfortunately. No food items to be taken ashore. This is Komodo sightseeing, not baiting. You don't want to have any food items. They will check that way coming off the tenders. It was amazing how much food was piled up on the tender pier by the authorities from guests taking ashore. These, I'll be telling you about the Komodos, they can smell up to 5 miles away. So you don't want to have any food items. You do not need a passport to go ashore. Your cruise ID card will be right with you, and that's excellent to have. Once again, the beach right where we come in is not available for swimming at all. Swimming or snorkeling, you must partake in the Pink Beach Tour. Now, it's about a 20-minute tender ride. I'll show you the boats. They're rather large boats, and there is a little bit of a gap to get onto the boats itself. Now, here, very important, females who are menstruating or anybody with an open wound must tell the guide as soon as you are meeting your guide ashore. They must know that. We are also in the mating season right now. It is when they're most aggressive. So please let the guide know. Also, as I mentioned, please wear comfortable shoes. Flat, comfortable trainers, sneakers if you have them. Take bottled water ashore, a hat, some kind of sunscreen, and also make sure you do have plenty of water. Now, you're looking at the Komodo dragon itself, and that's called Vanarus komodoensis. It is only on a few volcanic islands of the Lesser Sunda group. That includes Komodo Island itself. Komodo is the largest in the Sunda group. You're looking at about 390 square kilometers, 105.6 square miles. Now, the locals, they call the dragons oras or ora. It actually translates to mean land crocodile. Now, one of the first to be discovered, that was by the outside world, you're looking just over 100 years ago. It was J.K.H. Van Stein, one of the first outsiders to witness them, and it was back in 1911. Fortunately, by 1915, the Dutch government was already trying to protect the species. 1926, you had a gentleman by the name of William Douglas Burden. He was an American Museum of Natural History trustee. Him and a team of adventurers, they came into the area. They had a hunter, you had a herpetologist, a cameraman, Burden's wife. They came over to capture Komodo dragons. Now, at this time, no animal had been brought alive to the West. Now, they brought back camera footage of their exploration. They also brought back actual dragons, some dead in the museum. Some of these are still in the museum today. They brought 2 alive, and they brought these to the Bronx Zoo. The first ones in captivity. They had a captive audience. They became a very big hit. Private parties and sportsman club were showing the movies. Thousands flocked to the zoo the first year the dragons were there. Now, one person very interesting who was fascinated by the dragons was a Burden's friend. It was a filmmaker. His name was Marion Cooper. It is thought that Marion Cooper later on injected Burden's and his wife Tripp into his movie. His movie was made in 1933. You might have heard of it, King Kong. And what happens is you had the female on the expedition, Kong's forced trip back to New York. So you had many different elements of this exploration actually incorporated in the movie. Now, also they say the dragons had a big thing in naming the movie because Cooper liked the hard K in Komodo, so King Kong. So there's many different things that way. Now, they are believed to descended from a larger lizard, and this existed in Indonesia's main island of Java. Now, they think it possibly came even from Australia back about 30,000 years ago. Now, the Komodos prefer to dwell within a national park, tropical dry forest, but they range all throughout the island, beaches, savannas, even in the wet tropical forest. Now, they like to keep away from heat and humidity. So they like to keep warm at night, so they seek burrows. And the burrows are just about as big as they are to contain their bodies. Now, they're considered an endangered species, possibly about 40,000 reptiles today throughout the world, 1,700 on Komodo Island. You have Rinca, home to about 1,300, Gil Montang, about 100, Gili di Sami, about 100, and you have Flores, which is about 300. Now, unfortunately, Flores back in the 90s, there was over 2,000 on the island. They've really cooled down on the island. Now, they had here on the island of Padar, very close to Komodo Island, their Komodo dragons have been wiped out. What happens, it was hunters, but the hunters did not kill the dragons. They went after the deer that were stocked on the island. They actually put deer on the islands to feed the Komodo dragons. So they put them on Pandar, but what happens, they went over and the people hunted the deer. So it wiped out the food, so it wiped out the Komodo dragons. 1992, you did have the first Komodo dragon be hatched outside of Indonesia. Today, there's about 55 of their offspring around the world within over 30 zoos, Taronga Zoo in Sydney also. Now, how many here think never seen a Komodo dragon? If you watch TV, you had The Freshman with Matthew Broderick and also Marlon Brando, and then you had Skyfall with Daniel Craig, James Bond. Now, actually, only one of those was a Komodo dragon. Skyfall was a true Komodo dragon. It was named Songhai. He normally resides within the London Zoo. In the movie The Freshman, actually, that was an Asian monitor lizard. It was not a Komodo dragon. Now, you do have other dragons in Indonesia very similar. Now, it's called the monitor, the torch, or the sago monitor. It has an orange head, glossy body, but it does not attack people normally. You also have something very, very similar in the Philippines. It's almost identical, but very luckily, the one in the Philippines only eats fruit. Now, they've been hunted over the years, legally and illegally. Today, you do have a strict anti-poaching law within the Komodo Island itself, and they are really trying to protect the population. Now, it is some locals, when I was last there, still say there are people who actually still do try to come in and poach. It is the world's largest living lizard. You're looking at 366 pounds, 166 kilograms was the largest verified specimen. Now, they have here, one thing they say, he was weighed with a part of an undigested meal. Now, the Komodo dragon has a capacity of consuming 80% of its body weight. Now, the average, you'll see, is about 155 pounds or 70 kilograms. Males can go up to about 200 pounds or 91 kilograms. They grow between 8 and 9 feet, 2.4 meters or 2.8. They can measure up to 3.3 meters or 10 feet. Females, they average about 1.8 or 6 feet. Now, the Komodo dragon, it is very interesting. They're hunting. It's based on stealth, speed, overwhelming power. They can briefly run for 13 to 18 miles per hour, 20.5 to 30 kilometers an hour. Now, the locals, very interesting, they say when they reach their top speeds, their legs spin like egg beaters. They're moving so fast. I hope never to ever see that. But this here, and as mentioned, they can dive to depths 15, 20 feet, 4.6 to 6 meters. Now, they're not choosy eaters. They'll eat any type of meat, whether it be scavenging for dead carcasses, stalking live animals. Now, this will range from rodents all the way up to large water buffaloes. Now, today, it is the stock deer. They are what's called Timor rusa deer. They'll consume wild boar also. You'll have a chance possibly of witnessing a few wild boar on the island. Also, the palm civet, the rinka cats, goats, feral cats, dogs, the macaws, anything they can get a hold of, they will actually eat. Now, they will hunt by walking along trails and then stalking into the bush. And they'll wait for something to walk by, normally at night. They'll spend hours in one spot, and they will try to spring out on a goat, a deer, boar, anything that way. Now, when it catches a four-legged prey, let's say a deer in that way, it actually attacks the animal first with its feet. It doesn't come with its mouth open. It knocks the animal off balance, and then it will lunge straight for the animal's neck. It'll do the breaking of the neck to kill it. Now, it is to smash the animal ground, then it tears it to pieces. It has unbelievably strong muscles, powerful claws and teeth. Their teeth are large, curved, and they're actually serrated teeth. So they have a serration like a knife. They are completely suited for tearing apart an animal in that way. Once the animal, let's say a deer, is knocked to the ground, it can't escape. The next stripe after the neck will be right to the belly. It'll be injected with the dragon's venom, causing the deer to bleed out. Their venom is known as an anticoagulant. You bleed right out from the bite itself. Then the dragon will start to feed. Now, it is an extremely efficient machine. Lower jaw contains a movable joint. The throat opens unusually wide, thus allowing the dragon to swallow large portions of meat at lightning speeds. Now, as I mentioned, it can consume up to 80% of its body weight in a feeding. Now you have here other large mammals, let's say a lion, a tiger. They will consume 25 to 30% of what they kill. The Komodo dragon, 100%. Bones, hooves, everything. It's so actually efficient that when it gets the intestines, it'll pull the intestines out and shake them to clean out the intestines and then eat that. So it will eat everything in that way. Now, after a big kill, which would be a good 40 kilos, about 85 pounds, it can go up to several weeks, over a month without eating. It averages eating about 12 times a year. Now, it will actually also consume young Komodo dragons. Now, the young Komodo dragons, as soon as they are out, they go run up a tree and they live in a tree for a period of time. If they come down, a lot of times they'll rub themselves in their own fecal matter to get the smell away so the other dragons can't find them. Now, that way, their sense of light is very good. They can spot something 300 meters away, 985 feet, but they're very good at moving items. They're not that well suited for stationary items. Some locals say they can distinguish color. They do recommend, therefore, the locals always say don't wear red. Now, their hearing is not as good as a human's hearing. They cannot hear a low-pitched voice. They cannot hear a high-pitched scream. Now, their smell, that's their primary sense. They detect odor just like a snake does. So with their tongue coming out, it's a forked tongue. Now, they do have a yellow forked tongue comes out and makes contact with the air. As they walk, they move their heads. So now it's picking up scents from all around in that way. It puts its tongue back into its mouth. It has what's called a Jacobson organ. This is on the top roof of the mouth. It takes the tongue, puts it up in that way, and it has a chemical analyzer that can sense prey. And there's such an adapt. It can tell with that organ whether the prey is to the left or prey to the right. So it's very interesting how they do that. It is the airborne molecules actually picked up by this. And when they know the right tip has more of a concentration, they know to go to the right. Their food's going to be in that side there. Now, as I mentioned, they swing their head side to side. Their sense of smell, if the wind is against them, that way they're blowing it in, they can sense 8 kilometers, 5 miles away. If the wind is blowing back towards it, it can still do 1.5 miles or 2.5 kilometers sensing prey. Now, up to 2009, it was conventional wisdom that the bacteria within the dragon's mouth, now they say they carry over 50 strains, 7 which are highly septic. You infected the bitten animal, the animal's managed to escape, it would die in that way of an infection. It is the little bit of a different theory now, bacteria's venom. It thinks it was based on false data. It was 2009 in Queensland University, Brian Fry in Australia. He discovered the venom was the culprit behind the lethal bite. And once again, it's due to the fact that the blood cannot clot in that way. And he has that way. It also, the venom lowers blood pressure down, also prevents the area inducing shock. So when the bleeding starts, if the person goes into shock, now the bacteria can assist in that way of an animal. What happens is if an animal is bit, let's say it's bit on a leg, a deer, and it gets to escape, it'll normally run into a marsh. It will run into some area that way to try to take refuge. With the infection, that way of the bacteria, the 7 septic strains, in the water that's not going to be the cleanest, it can kill the animal also. Now, it is very interesting. They're doing studies on this now. A Komodo dragon's venom is not anything that can hurt another dragon. They can bite each other, and there's nothing that's going to happen between the other ones. Their bodies are used to that. There's nothing that way. So they're actually doing tests on that at this time. Now, it is, as I mentioned here, between May and August is the mating season. Now, you have here the males going into ritual combat quests for the attention of females. The male dragon, he'll come up to its teeth and utilize his tail for support. He'll wrestle in upright positions in that way, and they attempt to throw the opponent on the ground. The one that's bloodied up is the loser, and he runs away. Or they actually will play dead, lie there motionless. Now, the male will initiate mating by flicking its tongue on the snout of the female, then on the fold between her torso, and then all over the animal itself. Now, you can only tell a male to female by the arrangement of scales around the female's genitalia. Now, I'm going to take the word of the ranger who told me that because I'm never going to go inspect. Now, in September, they lay up to 30 eggs. It's called a clutch, and this avoids the brutal, hotter months at that time. Now, the nest will normally be be located in an area that adopts, quote unquote, steals. Normally they'll do is they'll take out a nest of another animal. They'll put their eggs in there to incubate. Now the females will probably stay on top of the eggs for the first 3 months. Now, it also, very interesting, they have found that the Komodo dragons, the females will make a false nest. So if prey comes in, it's going to think the eggs, the clutch is in one area that it's not. So it literally will make decoys in that way. Now, each hatchling will be about 3.5 pounds, 100 grams. The length will be about 16 inches. Now, as I mentioned, they are prone to be eaten as soon as they are hatched. The young will flee into the trees. Now, you're going to see, it's something very interesting. A lot of the palm trees, when they die off, they stand hollow. It's the perfect place for the young. So they'll go in, they'll eat geckos, lizards, and then also they'll seek out rodents when they get a little larger. And many of them will get eaten by other Komodo dragons. Now, they'll have to survive in the tree up to 5 years. They'll weigh approximately 11.5 kilograms or 25 pounds. They continue growing for another 30 to 40 years. That's their life. Now, they have lived up into the age of 60. So they have lived rather long. Now, a little bit about the park itself. Now, it contained the 2 islands, Komodo and Rinka, as well as 26 smaller islands and its islets. You're looking at 700 square miles or 1,810 square kilometers. Population about 1,400 residents. Now, there is a fee to go in the park that is included in your tour price. Now, you did have here in 1995, the Indonesian government enlisted the service of the Nature Conservatory, TNC. This is a Virginia-based company and is a really environmental group, and they assist with the management of the park, and they have now really stabilized the population of the dragons. They're not in danger. They do have a new monitor plan to start about 2,000, and this here has about limiting the amount of people come on. You're going to be part of approximately 50,000 people a year that get to go on the island. So this is not something a lot of people get to do. Now, you're entering into a UNESCO World Heritage Site, so it is very, very important that way. Now, you do have here the villagers on Komodo Island. They live quite well with their frightening neighbors. Now, they've always lived with the animals in close proximity here. It is something to do with a myth they have, the creation, and explains that. Now, the traditional tells of a man who once married a dragon princess who bore twins. One was human boy, Grong. One was a lizard girl, Ora. And they were separated at birth. And what happens, the legend states that when Grong grew up, he met a fierce-looking beast in the forest. And just as about the spirit, his mother appeared and revealed to him, in fact, it was his sister. Some also on that way believe the Komodo dragons are spirits of their ancestors. So they revere them very much in that way. Now, you do have, once again, the anti-poaching and protection laws. Now, this has been since 1980 when it became a national park. Now, it is said that they still, sometimes they have aggressive ones. The locals will use a poison bait, like a carrion, poison it, and let the Komodo eat that. And it's something what the ranchers used to do out in the American West. Now, also, the villagers have claimed that they have started getting more and more aggressive, and they used to be able to take them at bay. They used to feed them leftover bones and things in that way. They kept them somewhat fed in that way, but a law came in 1994. They're not allowed to feed the dragons at all. Now, you do have here, they used to actually, sometimes when visitors came on, they would actually take a boar or a goat, and they'd let the people witness the animals being eaten. Now, here you have the area of the islanders. There's a Komodo in the Indonesian name, and it is the what's called Bahasa language. And you have a village on the island, 1,377 inhabitants, and you have 180 families. Now, you do have here the park area really assisting the people in that way. Now, they do make their living mostly by fishing, also relying on tourists. You're going to have a whole area set up with all different souvenirs. Carvings, most of the carvings are hardwood. You'll have to declare it coming back into Australia and New Zealand, but you will have some handmade souvenirs on the island. Now, also, you do have here the residents. They are what they are. They're called Bugis. They speak a language which is the same name. They hail from Bima in the east and south Sumba, and also they came from the area of West Flores. Now, there's a very unique fact with the people. The Bugis, they believe there are 5 genders, not 2. You do have here male and female. Then you have effeminate men. That's called Calabai. Masculine woman, Calabi. and they represent the third and fourth genders, and they carry out very distinct roles within the Buga society. Then there's the fifth, and this is rapidly disappearing, the Bisu. They're seen as intermediaries between people and gods. They both have female and masculine elements. Now, it's supposed to provide them with powers that contact them with the natural and spiritual words. Now, most Bisu, they're born male. There are some biologically female ones. They're inducted in their 20s to become part shaman, part priest. Now, they are the spiritual advisors. They're also the healers. They do sacred rituals. And once again, this is part of the culture that is disappearing at this time. There are very few Bisu left. Now, interesting, most of the children in the National Park will go to the National Park School, but fewer than 10% will go beyond 4th grade. 2 reasons for this. High school is on a nearby larger island, and also they don't feel the need to educate themselves. They're going to mostly become fishermen, and that is the main occupation on the villages itself. Now, originally, the people were Buddhist. Now the Buddhists practice Sunni Islam, and it is that way. They will not hunt the Timor pigs. They will not touch the pork in that way. And that was the area, so it's left for the dragons, but they are raised still on the island. And they are very respectful, once again, of the animals themselves. Now, you're going to have here fork stake ships of sticks. These sticks are what your guides will be carrying, and they can actually keep the dragons at bay with the sticks. So it's very interesting when you go through that way. Now, the graves here are the ancestors. They're actually covered in cement in order for the dragons not to dig up the dead. So when they bury someone, they put a layer of cement down to stop the dragons coming in. Now, also in the villages, you have here the children. What the children will do, they will go, and they're taught as kids, if a dragon comes near, they throw rocks. They also will strike an aggressive posture, and also they'll bark, they'll flail their arms, and they'll get together in a group. Once again, the dragon doesn't like confrontation. It likes to hunt in stealth. So people will automatically get that way. They want to have, quote unquote, a quick, easy meal when they can strike. They don't like confrontation with humans or any other animals. Now, since 2007, there have been 2 deaths reported with several close calls. 2007, a 9-year-old villager was mauled. He was squatting to relieve himself behind a bush. They were able to chase away the dragon, but with the venom going in, the child did die with a loss of blood. That was the first fatal attack in 33 years. You did also have a 31-year-old fisherman was killed when he accidentally stepped on 2 lizards, and he was crossing a field full of grass, and he picked some fruit, and unfortunately, he died before they could get to Flores, the island. That's 4 hours away. 2009, a dragon made a visit to a 46-year-old ranger as he sat at his desk. What happens at night, the dragon actually climbed a flight of steps and got into the house, and he actually put himself under the desk. The ranger sat down. The dragon got his that way, but he was able to be rescued by his colleagues, and they were nearby, and they did get him rescued in that way. Now, on Rinca, once about 1,300 dragons, you had a group shipwrecked divers, and they encountered a hungry group of dragons. And how they kept them in bay, they kept tossing their lead weights, and they were eating them from their weight belts, and they were able to rescue them, with also keep them bay with rocks until they were rescued. You had an 83-year-old villager. She turned around, she almost lost her hand. She was able to hit him with a broom and actually keep him at bay. Now, this is the one that just happened, May of 2017. A gentleman from Singapore was staying at the village, and they took him around, and the next morning he woke up early, and he decided, I'll go redo that walk alone. And what he did is he came upon a large Komodo dragon eating a goat. So he was there taking his photos. He never looked behind him. A small Komodo dragon got him in the back of the leg. Luckily, when they got him over to Flores 4 hours later, he did not completely bleed out. He did survive. Now, how many here know of Sharon Stone, the actress? 2001, she had a little something. She gave her husband at the time, San Francisco newspaperman. He was the editor, Phil Bronstein, an unusual birthday gift. It was a behind-the-scenes tour of the L.A. Zoo, and one was the Komodo dragon. Now, Bronstein, he wanted to pose for a photo. And when he was in the thing with that, the dragon kept flicking out his tongue at him. And what happens is the gentleman who was the caretaker said, oh, you have white sneakers on. We feed him white rats. He might think your sneakers are rat. So he took his sneakers off. What happened? it bit his foot. He was able, actually, it was a smaller dragon. He was able to pry it open the mouth, and also they did turn around and get him to the hospital, but he almost completely had a toe severed and many of his tendons ripped. Now, you do have here the aspect he did get away without dying, but you also have here the attacks that transpired in the village. They've asked for a 6-foot, 2.2-meter wall to encircle the villages. This has actually, by the park authority, been rejected. They have made some makeshift barriers out of trees and broken branches, but they do realize the animals will be able to go that way. So here we are coming through, coming into the area of the Lesser Sunder Group. So that's where we are, ladies and gentlemen, coming into Komodo Island. Now, we have a new tender pier. It's the old cement pier. There was a beautiful old wooden pier, but they realized the structure is not in the best of condition, so they have moved. So if you've been here before, it's a little bit different. There's your map by Princess. That's looking at the village. Now, we're going to be about 2 miles away from the village, but that is where the people do live. It's about 1,377 people. That is the cement pier we'll be coming into by tender. By the way, whoever named the boats tenders never rode upon one. So here, and this is also where you'll be going out if you're going on the Pink Beach. This is the old pier. So we're not utilizing that pier. We're going to be coming into this one. Now, you can see what I mean by a walk. It's very, very shallow, so we have to be very far out. People ask why the ship is so far out. If we brought the ship in any closer, we'd be a permanent hotel in Komodo Island. So you do have the walk, and then you have about 250 meters to where you'll meet up with your guides. Now, you will have areas you're going to pass by with the shopping and everything else. You'll have plenty of time when you return to stop there. Don't stop and start shopping beforehand. Do the tour and get on your way. So here we are looking at the area. That's where the people coming in from the village. So welcome to Komodo. Little fishing boats. So that's the other pier. So that's how far the walk is to come over. That's the beach. No swimming. So now you're coming into the World Heritage Site. There's the deer. You're going to see plenty of deer while you're around there. So there's the national park. That is the sticks you'll see all the guides. So that is what keeps them at bay. Some information and all in English when you're there. That's the naturalist guide. You'll have one in the front and one in the back. There's 2 with the group. Now, this is how they live with them. There was a whole group that way. There's one underneath that house. There's people sitting up on top like nothing was going on. Look at them on the bottom. See? Look at them. They're sitting up there, and he's right below them. So here's that normal house. That's the one, when I told you the officer took the walk and got about 10 yards. His head came up, and you could just see him almost smile like, ooh, lunch. So there's one out in front of another house. This is when you're very happy you have a telephoto lens. There's the wild boar. Oh, I forgot the E. So here we are getting ready for the thing. You're going to come with the groups. Your sticker will have the number. Your number will get together. And then we're going to precede you on the walk. There's a little bit of a trail. That's one of the ones we encountered not 200 yards into the trail. So right there. So here is the area you can see. It's not that hilly, but it's not Disney World. It's not a paved road. It is the true island experience. So here we have one in the front, one in the back once again. Now you can see here the trees, perfectly suited for the babies to go up, live in within the trees. You can see here, I told you, you'll see all these palms like that hollow, and they'll go right inside and live in comfort there. So here, we're going to come in. This is quote-unquote the watering hole. And there's normally a group here. And there's about 12 guides around in a circle. So you're well protected as you're standing there taking the photos. This one posed. Look at that tongue. Once again, Jacobson organ, tongue goes out, comes in the mouth, analyzes the chemicals, knows where prey is on either side. This was one wanted to get near the water. Just push each other out of the way. Another one of the trees. This is one of the babies that came down to a tree, was trying to feed. The guide found this as we were walking through. There's the deer. Now we're back on the beach area. You'll see all the deer all around. And now here, this is their mall. But you do have many nice items here. Once again, Australia and New Zealand, you will have to declare, but most of it is hardwood. You look for boreholes. Remember, no coconut shell, nothing of shells in that way, of seashells also. You have hats, some beautiful bowls, fridge magnets, everything you can think of. So you'll have time after your tour for shopping. And they have every type of carved dragon. Now, you know how they color them? Shoe polish. And I'll tell you what, as you're walking around, you turn quickly, it can give you a jolt. They look much like the real. Little area there making nasi goreng. Now I'm going to take you to the Pink Beach. We're going to be walking from the area where you started over to the cement pier once again. Those are the boats. These boats here, it's about a 20-minute ride. But you do have that gap. So they really don't have a quote-unquote gangway for these. Here we are out in the boat. That's the Sea Princess. Now this boat's running alongside. This has some water. It has a snorkeling equipment, everything for you at the beach. That's also your shuttle boat from the boat to the beach. So here we are. There's one tied up that way, leaving the pier. Now you can see here how the boats operate. You get the two dagger boards in the back for steerage. That's going by, seeing the village. That is the Pink Beach. And then here, how many hikers, walkers do I have? There's no Komodos by this area, so you can stroll. And I'm going to take you up. You can go right to the top of the hill. And you got a great view over the whole area. So here we are, loading the guests off the big boat onto the small boat to be shuttled right to the beach. There we are at the beach. That is, now if you look, it doesn't look that pink, but once an area is wet, the red comes out. What it is, it's red coral offshore. And the red coral slowly breaks apart. So you have that. And it is a beautiful beach in that way. You have broken shells. Now, there's only 6 listed pink beaches in the world. And then one is the Pink Beach in Bermuda and that way, and also Harbor Island in the Bahamas. So you're getting onto a great area. So here, you can stroll away and get in a little open area. There's the snorkeling equipment. And then here, of course, the obligatory souvenir stands everywhere. So here we are walking away towards the hill. So strolling up, that's the look down. Absolutely beautiful. Plus, you get a view out to the other side. So there's a ship in the distance. Beautiful little cove there. And then here, the locals, they are extremely friendly. Great, great people. They're very, very nice. Great conversations. They actually embrace tourism. They really want people to come in. So you're going to find a very hospitable people. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's Komodo Island. It's a great place. Once again, though, consider you will have about 2.5 kilometers or a mile and a half. So basically, if you can walk around deck 5 times without stopping, you'll be able to do the walk in that way. One other thing to go through real quick, People are going to already started asking me about Petra. To get into Petra, it is 1 mile walk in, 1 mile walk out. There are donkeys. I do not recommend it. When I was cruise director at Holland America, I had a young lady taken on the donkey, and she came off. She wound up not coming back to the ship. She spent 2 weeks in the hospital. What happens with the donkeys, they go as fast as they can because the more times they do it, the more money they make. So they go at a full speed, and you can get thrown off. The walk through the Seek is 1.6 kilometers, 1 mile. You can do it that way with the guide, or if you can't keep up with the guide, they'll let you go at your own pace. You walk in, see what you can once you're inside, and then you have the 1.6 kilometer, 1 mile walk back. But I will have people coming up asking me, rephrasing the question, is there another way of getting in? The only way is 1 mile in the Petra, 1 mile out. It is the Seek, and you have to walk through that to get that way. There's no back road. There's no buses that can go a different area. It is one of the most breathtaking walks you can ever imagine doing. Ladies and gentlemen, may your God bless. Thank you for your time. Have a great day.